Nicole, thank you so much for coming on to today's episode.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, pretty funny story is kind of how we met. We met, I think, like 2 years ago at our mutual friend Bethany's Halloween party.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Was that 2 years ago?
I don't know how many years, but it was definitely at the Halloween party.
Yeah, you and Blake showed up as the gingerbread man, and what were you?
Oh, I was Lord Farquaad.
Lord Farquaad. That's so
Yeah.
sick. I was the bear. So I was I dressed up as
yeah.
chef or whatever. Have y'all ever seen that?
I haven't seen it. It's on my list.
It's kind of amazing. Since then, I think we've run into each other a few times. Like I think Bethany did her 500th mile hike or something. Were you there for that? Or that was so sick at Papago?
I wasn't there. I think maybe you might have been. Yeah.
Well, I went to the post party.
Okay, nice. And then we were at Bethany's housewarming, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
When I told her that I was launching the podcast, she was like, "Hey, you should reach out to my friend, Dr. Jimenez." And I was like, "All right, heard."
Yes, she always talks about me.
Yeah, she does. She gasses you up. That's so sick.
Yeah.
So what can you kind of explain or describe your title? You're a researcher, microbiologist.
Yeah. So, in technical terms, I'm a postdoctoral research scientist. But to like most lay people, I'm a biomedical scientist. I was trained in microbiology, and now I focus on how the microbiome relates to women's health conditions.
Gotcha. And you are also decorated. Congratulations on the 2025 Outstanding Postdoctoral Scholar at U of A.
Yes. You've been looking at my LinkedIn.
Yes, I have been. It's so funny because I was like, trying to prep and do some research, and I was reading your bio and the work that you've done and some of the articles that you were in. And it's so funny because it's like, I couldn't understand any of the words that I was reading. So it's like so cool that that's like a whole nother world that I don't have like much experience in.
Yeah. I get that a lot from like friends and family. I'll send them like an article or like a journal that I've recently submitted or published, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I didn't understand like half of what was written, but the figures look nice, and I'm happy for you."
Yeah, literally, it looks so sick. So you're like, what did you study in school then? Was it microbiology?
Yeah, actually, so when I went to Arizona State as well.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was first starting out, I was actually a human nutrition major. And then I heard about like the microbiome. And so for most people, the microbiome is basically the bacteria and other microorganisms on and within your body. And so I heard about it. It was really cool. It was up and coming. And so I decided to switch my major to microbiology. And ASU is like one of the only undergraduate majors in the country that has microbiology. Most places only have like biology or biomedical sciences or something like that.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I had some friends studying like biomedical engineering and biology, but I don't remember meeting anybody who was studying like microbiology. Is there a difference between microbiology and not normal biology?
Yeah, so basically like the main courses for biology and microbiology are the same, but for microbiology, you kind of like your upper elective courses are all talking about bacteria or fungi or viruses, etc.
Gotcha. Like what I guess what would that be like different from? Like is it for biologists? Oh, I'm gonna sound so dumb. Is it like a normal biologist would not like study those smaller details, I guess?
Yeah, they can. I think it's just more hyper-focused. Yeah, so like microbiologists tend to be the people that people think about when you're like studying diseases or when
I
you're
see.
thinking about like food manufacturing and like yogurt development or things like that. That's what people tend to think about when you think about a microbiologist. Mine's a little different. Like I still focus on like bacteria, but it's like more broader scale in how it impacts like human health. And we both look at like good bacteria, so the ones that protect us and kind of have evolved with us for a long time, and then also the bad bacteria, so those that can cause like disease or even cause or can progress cancer.
Whoa, that is so crazy. Like, can you trace what uh, the evolution of what a good bacteria comes from and or like bad? Like, how do you differentiate between like what's good and what's bad?
Yeah, so that's kind of debated as well, because like some bacteria are known as like commensals, so they live with us and they're fine. But say like you cut your knee and like your commensal bacteria gets into the wound, it can then like cause an infection. So those are called opportunistic pathogens. And so they can like live with us, but they can also cause disease. Where there's like other ones that they are known pathogens. So like one that people may know is like C. diff or Clostridium difficile, and that causes like a lot of like gastric illness.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What does gastric mean?
Oh, stomach. Sorry.
Oh, okay, makes sense. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. But like sometimes I hear like gastronomy is like a term for food, and I was like, oh, maybe that's like your tummy. So
Yeah.
gastric. Okay.
Yeah.
What years did you like go to ASU?
I was there from 2010 to 2014.
Okay, cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. We had some overlap. Nice. And then you pursued your doctorate afterwards.
I actually took a gap year, and then I was working at like a clinical research facility for a bit, and I didn't really like that. And then I had applied to these programs called post-baccalaureate programs. And so basically, they give you a year of research, but you're also taking like graduate courses and helping you like prep your grad applications so that you're more successful getting into grad school. So I did that for a year, and I moved from Phoenix all the way to Richmond, Virginia. And then after that, I then applied to a bunch of different graduate programs. I even tried to come back to ASU, but all the professors were like, you should like broaden your horizons and go elsewhere and then come back when you've had your degree as a professor or something. And so I ended up staying in Richmond for an additional 5 years to complete my PhD.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I think I saw that was like Commonwealth of Virginia.
Virginia Commonwealth University.
Nice,
Yeah.
Virginia Commonwealth University. How long was your doctorate program? Because like for engineering, it's like pretty short, and yeah. Whereas like a normal MD doctor, I guess, has like forever, 7 years or something like that. Was
Yeah,
yours
in
like
total for like doctors, like medical doctors, that's the case. But like the main is like 4 years for medical doctors. For PhD folks, it's a little different because it's kind of like the first 2 years is kind of more towards your coursework. And then you have to do an exam. And if you pass that qualifying exam, you're then considered a PhD candidate. And then you can focus mostly on your research. And that time frame can take anywhere from like a year or 2 years to 3 or 4 years.
gotcha?
So the average in the United States is about 5 years.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And so like, what was your research during that time?
Yeah, so I was working on microbiology still. My PhD is in microbiology and immunology. And so when I was there, the human microbiome was like a big thing. And so VCU actually had one that was focused on the vaginal microbiome. And I hadn't really heard a lot about that. So I was interested in being involved. And they were kind of characterizing what is the vaginal microbiome? How does it impact health? And then their second study called Mom's PI was related to understanding the microbiome in pregnancy and how it relates to preterm birth. These are like bigger studies, so typically they'll be anywhere from probably 4 years to 5 years in like grant terms. And then I joined when they were already had the study ongoing. And so I was at the phase that they were collecting the samples and then analyzing the data. So that's when I came in and started analyzing the
Okay,
data.
gotcha. Do you have a background in like data science too?
Bioinformatics, yeah.
Oh, okay. What is that?
So basically, it's data science, but they teach you like how to interpret the data in context to like biological relevance.
Okay,
So you're instead of like looking at a bunch of numbers, you are probably looking at sequences or nucleotides,
gotcha.
or it could be other things too. But
And so when did you kind of like gain that skill? Was that like during your doctorate or was it beforehand?
it was during my doctorate. It was a little scary at first because I was like, I don't know coding. I've never learned coding.
Same.
It was a little scary. But my mentor at the time, she was like really good at coding. And she's like, I think you can do this. You'll take like supplementary classes because my degree was in microbiology. But at VCU, they also have a bioinformatics PhD program. And so I took additional coursework to learn R and Python.
Okay, nice. Have you found that learning those skills has like what is that called? Like paid dividends where you're just like, yes, like now that I know how to code, it's like you can write up simulations or data analytics like significantly easier. Like you don't have to, I guess, ask somebody or if you don't know how to do it, I guess I don't even know how you would get that info across.
Yeah, so I think it has paid off because at that time, there was like a lot of, what they call big data. So people are sequencing a bunch, there's a lot of information, but not a lot of people to analyze it. And so right now, like it's the same case where they're looking for people that have those skills in data science, but also understand like research or how it relates to like biology. And so, luckily, when I was at VCU, I was trained in both. And so I kind of have this like extra skill. I have like, I can go in the clinic, help with the sample collection, know how to prep the samples, can cultivate the bacteria, and do all like the wet lab experiments. But then I can also analyze the data, which not every researcher is able to do.
Okay, gotcha. And was that time period like 2018, 19, something like that? Around then?
It was, yeah. I started, I think, 2016 and graduated in 2021.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because you said big data, and when I was transitioning, I was telling you that I used to be an aerospace engineer, and when I was trying to transition out of aerospace, data science was an interest of mine, and like big data, and so that was a hot term, but it was also like kind of a brand new field, and it's only like gotten more developed. And so hearing you say that was like funny because it lined up exactly when I was like learning about that as well.
Yeah.
That's cool. So like when you're at VCU, are you doing this research under, oh, that's interesting. Like, is it under a grant or is it under a specific professor? Is it underneath, it's obviously underneath the school, but like,
Yeah.
like how does that structure work in terms of research? Because I'm sure there are other students who are doing research, but they weren't doing the same as you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually both. So basically, to run a lab, to do the research, you need money, and so that comes through grants. And the grants can come from most common people think of like maybe the NIH or the NSF, so government funding, but it can also come from like industry partners, foundations. Like philanthropy is really great, especially like in women's health. Like most of our grant dollars actually come from foundations or even local grants. But so once a person gets a grant, so it comes through what they call a principal investigator. So you'll hear people use the term PI. So it's not private investigator, it's principal. And so that person is like the head honcho of that grant. And then there could be a bunch of people working under them. So there you could like have staff scientists, postdoctoral fellows, which is what I am right now, undergrads, graduate students, etc. And so they get paid off of that grant potentially.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the entire structure of like the team that comes from the grant.
Yeah, so you could build your team. You're constantly like in academia, which is where I work now. You're constantly applying for grants.
Yeah.
And like, you can have multiple grants at the same time. And then based on those grants, you can pay different people off of, or some of them can overlap and you can pay for one person using two different grants.
Okay, gotcha. A couple of years ago, I was in the middle of doing a startup, and I went to an ASU entrepreneurship it wasn't a class, maybe it was like a seminar or something for other people, and it was talking about different ways that you can get funding through angel investors, venture capitalists, and one of those things was getting a grant. And so there were even some grant writers or something like that.
Yeah.
And so is that is that like a completely different skill? Do you support in writing up a grant? Like, have you ever written one? And also, where would you apply, I guess?
Yeah. So it's like a skill you learn. Some universities do have like grant writers. Like we have somebody on our campus that can review your grant. Like they're not writing it all for you. But it's kind of a part of the current career is like you will likely, if you're in academia, have to write grants to get your funding. And so it is a skill like you hone.
Is there like a website that you go to, or like how would
do you like find them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you can find them like different ways. So the NIH always has like a list of grants that are like constantly being like, they have grant cycles. So you'll know, like for me, I just put in a K-99, which is a type of training grant. And they're always available like during February, June, and October. So they're always around. You know that you can apply to those. Where other ones like the Flynn Foundation, which is local here in Arizona, or the ABRC, which is the Arizona Research Biomedical Collaborative, they also have grants that they like announce. And then usually your university will like let you know that they have this grant, and then you can apply to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I guess how big is a grant? Is that in terms of like hundreds of dollars, thousands, tens of thousands?
Yeah. So, they can range. So you could get like a small, like pilot grant, and that could be like $5,000. You could also get like a training grant, and some of those are like 75,000 or 200,000. But then there's the large ones, like the RO ones. Those could be like $250,000 or more. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So there's probably a person's like their dedicated job is just to keep on getting grants so that the research can continue getting funded.
Yeah, so that's the job of the PI, the person that like is running the lab, but they're not always like they're doing other things besides grant writing, but it does come with the space in like academia is you have like this term, what they call soft funds and hard funds. So say you have a position at the institution, part of your money is going to be hard funds. And so like the university is paying you a portion, but your soft money is coming through your grants.
Gotcha.
So you do like work a lot to get the grants, and depending on how long they are and how much money, you might not have to worry about writing for like a year or so. Right now, you've probably heard it's like really tough out there for scientific research. And so the funding pay lines are a lot lower. And so we've been putting in a lot of grants this year, for sure.
What is kind of like the success of getting a grant? So like you're saying, like you put out a lot. Do you get all of them? Do you get only like 10%? Or, you know, is there like a spread that you have a hope for, I guess? Like,
yeah, it kind of depends on the grant. Like the more you put out, you're more likely to get a grant. But not all of them are successful. Like you're gonna face rejection because
Yeah,
they're
for
very
sure.
competitive.
And so you're competing against like other schools and other private researchers, I guess. Like
Yeah.
who's your competition, I guess, for
Yeah,
grants?
yeah. Other researchers at different universities or other like research institutions. So there are like places that aren't like universities. They don't have students, but they do research, and so can also apply for those grants too.
Gotcha. I've
Yeah.
never even thought of private research. That's a thing.
Yeah, well, it's not. Some of them aren't fully private, but some of them are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have
Like
like
it's
these
not
like little research hubs,
interesting.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's not like
yeah.
affiliated with the school.
No,
Whoa, that is so interesting.
and even like some hospitals are more
Oh
research
yeah.
hospitals.
Like Mayo Clinic?
Yeah, but they have like medical students too. But yeah,
Oh, true.
they do research there too.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, I have some friends who have talked about Mayo Clinic, and they all say like that's like one of the goated uh, places to go in terms of research. It's just one of the strongest places to
they have
for
a
that.
big network. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
okay, gotcha. So like, what is your role in the I guess in the stack of your team? Like you said that you do some data analytics, but you also can support getting samples. Like what is like a day in the life like for you now post doctorate?
Yeah, so every day is very different. But I guess in the structure of like the scientific team or the lab, I would be considered more of like a senior person. So I help like mentor a lot of the students, like our grad students, medical students, and undergraduates. But then I also have my own projects that I'm working on. And so some of them help support my bosses missions, but some of them are like what I was funded to research because I'm in this transition period. So that I guess what I can equate it to is how like some medical doctors, their next phase is like residency.
Okay.
I'm like in science residency right now. And
Okay.
so I still training, but I'm kind of independent. And so the next step is for me to try to get my own lab.
Getting your own lab means like, because like right now you're underneath the Herbst Kralovitz lab
Yeah.
at U of A.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And so under that professor, like that's their lab, and you're trying to get your own. Ah,
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so right now you said that you're or researching the microbiome in women's health.
This is close. Yeah. Yeah.
How would you describe that again?
Yeah. So basically, I'm looking at the microbiome in context women's health condition. So our lab focuses on a bacteria that reside within the vagina, the rectum, and also in the uterus, and then try to understand how they contribute to either like creating optimal health or causing disease. So that would be like infections. It could be cancer progression is one thing that we have been focusing on. And also more recently looking at these conditions called benign gynecologic conditions. And although it's benign, it just means like it's not cancerous, but they are very debilitating. So one of the ones that you might know well is like endometriosis. Some people have been talking about that more
Gotcha.
frequently. But yeah.
That's the one where you have too much sugar in your pee.
No.
That's a different one.
No.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But that is a pregnancy thing, right?
What?
Endo.
Endo? No, it's not.
Nice. Okay, cool. It's so funny because I'm like trying to remember all of these big words, and I'm like, oh, it's like really hard.
Yeah, you can tell me to okay, explain that to me further.
Okay, what is
But endometriosis.
endometriosis?
Yeah, so basically in like layman's term, it's like the uterus has lining inside, and so a lot of people when women menstruate, that's the stuff that comes out. But that lining can also grow outside of the uterus, and it can grow on the ovaries, it can grow on the rectum, and some people it can grow in the lungs and in the brain. but it causes a lot of pain. So people don't know how it came to be yet, and so we're kind of trying to understand like more about what it is, and also how to treat the symptoms or figure out biomarkers so that we create a diagnostic test so that people can figure out what they have, because it takes about 6 to 10 years for these women to figure out that they have this condition.
Oh, wow. And is that because it's just like something that's not like so prioritized in research, and so you guys are like some of the forefront of that team right now?
Yeah, so recently it has been more like brought to light, especially like in the UK and Australia. In France, they've had whole initiatives to try to do research in this area. But yeah, so it is like a lot of people don't know about it quite yet, but it is hard to treat because people go in and they have like bloating or heavy menstrual periods or pelvic pain. And a lot of these are overlapping symptoms to other conditions. And then it just takes these patients like a lot of time to get diagnosed. And especially another thing is like sometimes the doctors don't believe them. They think it's just in their head or it's just normal period pain or something like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you're trying to kind of come up with a faster way to like detect this.
Yeah, so that's my boss's mission.
Okay, I see.
So she focuses on the diagnostic portion, and I'm trying to more figure out like how does the microbiome play a role in this condition, and also can it contribute to certain certain symptoms such as chronic pelvic pain.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back on something where you said there are other countries that are starting to really focus on this. Something I've been curious about with like the science community is, in my intuition, is there's collaboration in the same domain. Is that true? Have you do you collaborate with other researchers outside of your lab to progress, or is it kind of like closed box? You guys are all kind of doing your own thing and maybe link up every once in a while?
Yeah, so originally when people used to think about like science research, it was like you had a lab and you're focused on something and you're trying to be like the number one. And that's what people would say, like it stays in the ivory tower. And so it doesn't make its way back to like the public. But over the past few decades, it's kind of a requirement to have collaboration to try to solve these big problems. So you saw like in the COVID-19, a lot of that was expedited, like the vaccine and other treatments were expedited because the scientific community kind of all came together at once and we're trying to focus on this mission.
Yeah.
So yeah, currently we do have collaborations. We have some collaborators internationally, or my boss does, and then we have some locally as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And yeah, what you're talking about with during the COVID phase, I remember, like I said, I was transitioning. And so I was trying to get more into more hands-on projects with software development and big data. And I think there were a lot of communities that were, I guess, donating their time kind of thing. I don't know. But it was like, yeah, you can join this Slack group and then you could be assigned a certain task to start kind of like help scrape data or do whatever it is, and then I'm not sure what they would do from there, but that was kind of like my view of like the science community briefly. And so it's kind of, I guess it's cool to hear that it's not such the ivory towers, I guess, have like slightly opened their doors a little bit.
Yeah. So now like the big push is trying to get more of like community engaged research or patients involved so that we can make larger strides, like because originally like we're trying to do this research though so that it impacts society and it impacts the people, but sometimes we can get blindsided and like just focus on like our particular task, but who does it help in the end? You need to kind of get the input from the community.
It's so interesting that you say that, because I just read that in an article that you were in about how it's important to reach out to your literal target audience to kind of get more input and feedback. But I guess is it also to get more have them come in and also be like a data point is or like how would a community help your research? Is it just through discussion or is it actually through like their data or
It's kind of both. It depends on what study you're making. But one way is that they could come in and like review what you're doing, kind of inform your study that way. Another way is that they can participate and they could just give you samples. But like the best way to kind of have like a real community participatory research study is to have them involved throughout and sometimes being even on the team with you doing the research. So it's like a more like citizen science type of approach.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And is that where you have like a set of people ready to help at all times, or are they like working with you? Like, how
Yeah,
would that
they're
work?
working with you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we don't currently have something like that in place, but we are working towards that type of approach. Right now, we do have some studies going out into the community and doing what they call talking circles. So, kind of getting feedback about, like, are you okay with giving a vaginal sample or a rectal sample? How do you feel about HPV or the microbiome? What do you know about it? And then from that, we are able to kind of inform some of our studies.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Can we go a little bit more in depth about your current research right now?
Yeah, we can. It's a lot. We
Uh,
have a lot of different studies.
Okay, I'm perfect. Yeah, yeah, I'm curious to know like what you said about how your day to day is like um do you have like certain like you said every day is different. So does that mean you're not always in a lab? Are you like I said like we were saying like going into the community more? Is it a mixture? And then it's like how much like heads down time are you doing where you're locked in, or is it not like that in your field?
Yeah, so it depends. Like every biomedical scientist it has like a different like workflow and different day to day. So some people I work with, they have animal studies, so they're like in the lab a lot, or they're like working with the animals a lot. Our lab doesn't have animals at all, so we have
Is sorry, is that controversial? I don't
what
know. Like animals?
animals.
I have no idea.
I guess right now it could be a little bit, but I mean, we know that they're like useful to be able to understand certain mechanisms. But ultimately, not all animal models will recapitulate like the human body.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a pig's liver is different than like another animal's liver. That's why we like have confidence in using pig livers with humans or something like that.
I don't know about the pig livers. Are
Oh,
you
gotcha.
yeah? Are you talking about like transplants or something?
Yeah, I think that's a thing sometimes.
Yeah.
But with like pigs, is that a thing?
I don't know. I'd have to look. The heart.
Oh,
He says
it's
the
a
heart.
heart? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm not so certain about that. But yeah, so basically there can be like different anatomical differences or similarities. But like for example, I'll go back to like what our research is on the microbiome. So like a lot of people use rats and mice in studies, but the rat and mice vaginas have different bacteria than the human. Like the human vagina is very specific. Not even like non-human primates have the same type of bacteria.
Gotcha.
So it makes it hard to study in an animal model. So most of our studies are human models, or they're what they call in vitro. So we use cells from humans and then infect them with the bacteria.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When you get the human cells, is it like one time, like, I don't even know, donation? Or is it like, okay, you have a sample and you're able to recreate it so that you have like an infinite amount of like material, like a samples to test on?
Yeah, so some people do studies where they collect straight from patient samples and cells, and then they like create tissue structures or organoids from them, and then they study those. But other people use like well established what they call cell lines. So they were somebody way in the past had a sample of the cell and now it's been utilized in the scientific community. So one famous one is like the HeLa cells.
What
Yeah.
what are those? The
They're,
HeLa
they're,
cells?
they're cervical cells.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. And wait, and so like we're able to recreate those?
Well, they're growing. They're living
Oh, they're growing.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, how does that work? So it's like you have a like a I don't even I'm envisioning a petri dish.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you do have like petri dishes
Okay.
with like you have some cells and they're like really small,
Mm-hmm.
but then they're growing and they're in this like media.
Yep.
And so they utilize all the nutrients from the media. And if they utilize all the nutrients, they'll die unless you like
Refeed.
refeed them. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we call feeding like ourselves or splitting ourselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you take a portion of that? And so it's like you have your set and then you take a portion and you continue feeding this, but then this one
You can start a new one.
Can you start a new one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Elizabeth has recently been getting into sourdough. I'm not
Oh,
following
yeah.
that, but that's kind of like
Yeah.
how I'm envisioning this right now. But is that kind of like the basic concept?
Yeah, it's kind of the basic concept. So
Okay.
like the same thing with our bacteria, or in her case, I think it's like mostly yeast and sourdough starters. Is yeah. So there are these like, well, cells aren't living things, but they have certain requirements. So you do feed them, but like bacteria are living things. So you have to like keep giving them nutrients as well for them to continue growing. Yeah.
That's so funny. You just said cells are not living things, and I'm sitting here and I was like, is that? Well, I didn't.
they're
I didn't
like-
know that.
They're living, but they're not. They're like part of a multicellular structure, right? They're part of us, multi-organism. They're not like a bacteria that has like its nucleus and can reproduce on its own and live by itself. Type
Oh,
of
I
thing.
see.
Yeah. So
Okay,
they are
and like multiply and grow, or
they
something
are
like
like
that?
living, but they have like limitations in their growth.
Gotcha. Yeah. So going back to what you do, primarily focus on the microbiome inside of the vagina and how that relates to potential cancers that can come from that. Is that? Am I on the?
You're like getting there.
We're
yeah.
getting there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So like, how do you map? Like, how do you go from one to the other? Like, how do you start from like a healthy biome all the way to like, okay, this is I'm seeing developments in something that shows we're walking towards cancerous cells are going to start developing.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're trying to study. We know, like, in the vagina are lactobacilli. So some people might know lactobacilli because you can also find them in your yogurt, or they've heard about them in probiotics. So in the vagina, they kind of create like this optimal environment. They lower the pH to keep out other bad acting bacteria. They have these other like metabolites and things as well. But the lactobacilli like levels can change due to different factors. So when you take antibiotics during different like phases in your life, so like after menopause or during pregnancy, and smoking. These are there's like a lot of factors
Like
that can
different
impact
features?
them.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that can impact the levels of your lactobacilli. And when they lower too much, these other bad acting bacteria, or what we call like anaerobes, can come in and kind of overgrow and cause more havoc. And then that's when you start to see more of these other well-known pathogens that come in, like gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV, HPV. Yeah.
And so those you said like the bad bacterias can come in. Is it specifically? I guess what you said sounds like STDs. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so those are like the well-known what we call bad bacteria, but there are like others that are there and kind of create an environment, which is what we're trying to find out is whether they're like drivers of disease or are they merely growing there because they can thrive in that condition.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so like, how do they get there? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like bacteria around us all the time. They're on all surfaces and everything. So we've also been investigating like the swapping between different body sites. So like the gut microbiome can go into can swap into the urinary tract, and the urinary tract microbiome can swap into the vaginal tract, oral, except yeah, other sorts like that too.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so, okay, so that means like there are different environments throughout your body, and those environments can travel to other areas. And if it's like potentially foreign, that could like start propagating.
Potentially, yeah.
Wow. And is that where kind of like what you were saying with like uh, uh, endometriosis, how it can like travel, or is that also a microbiome or?
It's not a microbiome, but what we think is that the microbiome with like in the uterus may be promoting the growth of these cells or may be causing like certain symptoms like pain.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. And
But we
then
don't really know that yet. We're trying to figure it out.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is not a solved thing yet.
No, no.
Whoa. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, like, where in what phase are you in terms of this research? Are you are you kind of like at the beginning of your research, or are you kind of like deep in like, bro, we might be at a breakthrough soon, or is it like working towards that? And also, are breakthroughs a thing? Like, you're like, oh my god, that was the catalyst.
Yeah. So, because we work on multiple projects all at once, some of them are at like different phases. Some are like very pilot level. Like, we had this hypothesis and we wanted to test it, and we have a small sample size of like participants, and we're able to look at that. But then others that have like been researched for decades, like HPV infection, we're able to like hone in on specific like targets. Like, how does this particular bacteria that's been associated with HPV lead to lead to it causing cancer?
I see.
Yeah.
And when you say we, do you mean like, let's say your research group, you're doing a lot of things in parallel, or is we more like holistic, like research overall?
It's like both. It's
Okay,
like both like
tracking.
the field of researchers, but like within our lab too. Like all of us, we're like multiple people. Like to get a study done, it's not just like one person working on it. There may be like a lead or a first author, but it takes like a team to get that study performed.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. And so you're actually a part of like multiple projects then. I see.
Yeah.
What are some of the few of those that you focus on?
Yeah. So one that I already mentioned was about endometriosis and chronic pelvic pain. We also have one that's like looking at anxiety. Another one that we're currently that I was funded for was investigating a bacteria called Phantahesia, and it's been associated with cervical cancer and uterine cancer. And so we're trying to figure out the mechanisms of which it's kind of promoting that cancer. And then we have other studies where we're looking at HPV infection and how the bacteria promote HPV infection, but also how those bacteria may also progress the cervical cancer as well. And that's a few of them. Our lab focuses on like also looking at environmental factors such as like endocrine disrupting compounds. So you may have heard of like phthalates or parabens. And so we're looking at how those change the microbiome as well.
What are those?
Yeah, so they're like basically these like foreign metabolites. So they're like in our products, in like
Oh, I
our
see.
cleaning
So
stuff.
like when you say environment, you mean like literally like outside, like cleaning products, like you're saying.
Cleaning products, it could be
Possibly in our food,
makeup,
makeup.
it could be food. So they're kind of everywhere.
Whoa, that's crazy. And it like leaks into you. Is that kind of like the...
Well, yeah, you're consuming it, and then it can have impacts on your microbiome, which
Wow.
then could have impacts on your health.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
tracking.
yeah.
Okay, I see. Right now, do you have like a specific one that you're kind of like most interested in? Or is it kind of all just like equally interesting to
It's
you?
all equally interesting. I think the one that I'm like currently working the most on right now is our uterine cancer. So endometrial cancer, which is specifically earlier I talked about like the lining of the uterus. So we're trying to understand how the microbiome contributes to that, but also of the bacteria that have been associated, like how are they modulating the environment? Are they creating more inflammation? Are they creating instability in the cells? Are they changing metabolites that then can cause cell proliferation? So those are the types of things like we're investigating.
When you talk about microbiomes, the way that I'm envisioning it is a form of environment as well.
It's an ecosystem.
An
It's like a
ecosystem?
little
Uh-huh.
ecosystem. Yeah. So for our clinical data, we're looking at like snapshots. Basically, we get one sample from a patient, and during this day and this time, this
This
is
is
what
what...
their microbiome looked like.
Yep.
And so, so we do those types of studies. We also have currently ongoing a longitudinal study. So we're basically getting samples from multiple days to see like how does the microbiome change? What does it look like? Does it stay very similar? Is it stable? Is there like a lot of variation? But then like within the lab when we're doing our experiments, we're kind of have our single bacteria that we're interested, but then we also like mix certain ones together that we know co-occur with one another in like
In the
real
body.
life. Yeah.
So like you know certain bacteria that exist inside the microbiome, and you have certain, what is that, like the control bacteria, and you kind of like mix possible bacterias from the microbiomes with like the bacteria of interest, and then see how they react together.
Yeah.
Is there like a density issue that you have to deal with, in the sense of like, when I think of bacteria, I think of like little dots, and so if you have like one bacteria versus one bacteria, I don't even know if that's possible, or like, I'm thinking like a small handful and like a big amount. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by kind of like mixing those two together?
Yeah. So in the
Varying
lab,
those?
everything's like very formalized. So we look at like a certain what we call like CFUs. So we look at a certain density of our bacteria and we make sure everything is equal.
Yep.
And then we mix the equal parts together.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's always equal, like, or not always, but
In our experiments, we try to make it all equal.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I see. And so, like the bad bacteria that you talk about that you like are trying to study, when I guess, is that like where you like look in a microscope? Like, do you look at those? Like, is that
Yeah, what does it look like in the lab?
yeah, like, is that what you do in real life? Like, like
Yeah.
those are real?
So when yeah,
You know?
microscopes are
Yeah,
real.
the microscope thing. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so no, when I'm in the lab, there we have like different stations. And so one is kind of like our bacterial station. We have like what they call an anaerobic chamber, so it doesn't have oxygen. So some bacteria like cannot grow in oxygen at all. So like some of the gut bacteria, some of the vaginal bacteria don't like oxygen, so they need a specific environment to grow in. And so we have like our little petri dishes with our agar, so that creates like a solid medium and their nutrients, and then we like streak them on the plates and we keep them alive. We do different experiments with them. We can look under the microscope to see like what do they look like if it's a new bacteria, because some of the things we're looking at now is like bacteria that haven't been like formally classified.
Oh, wow.
And then we also have our cell culture stations, and that's where we like grow our human cells, and then we do our experiments with the bacteria as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so going back to like the new bacterias that you're trying to classify, does that mean that like underneath the microscope that looks different than one that we do know? And then like how different can you tell at that level?
Yeah, so like way back in the day, they used to use like Bergey's manual is still a thing that's used, but back in the day, that's how people would classify bacteria is by their shape, what they looked like under the microscope, how they grew on the agar plates, and different like biochemical things they did. However, we know like that's not like a bacteria that's white can look like another bacteria that's white, and they could be totally different bacteria.
Whoa.
So now we use DNA basically to kind of figure out, is this very different from this other bacteria?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you extract the DNA from the bacteria. And then, so what does that mean? Like, I'm envisioning like a helix, double helix thing, but like, that's real? Is it like, does it look like a double helix? Can you see
Well, you
it?
can't see it.
Okay, gotcha.
Unless you had like a really powerful microscope.
like super powerful.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, what does extracting the DNA mean? And then what does looking at the DNA mean? Like, how do you,
So that process? Yeah, so basically we grow up our bacteria. And then once we have like a good amount of our bacteria, we'll create a cell pellet of the bacteria. We'll wash it a couple times. And then we'll use like a couple of different chemicals to then kind of break down the cell walls of the bacteria, kind of get rid of our proteins, a bunch of filtration steps. And then finally, you're left with like the bacterial DNA. And then from there, we don't do it in our lab. We send it off to get sequenced. And there they do.
that's like the ATC.
Yeah, that's DNA.
Nice. Okay.
But then, yeah, so they sequence the whole genome.
Okay.
And it comes out in like different, what they call reads, so sections. And then basically on the back end, they give it back to us. And we have to like put it together like a puzzle piece to assemble it as like a whole genome. And then from there, we can then study using like different bioinformatic tools to see like how closely related it is to another genome. So you could do making like phylogenetic trees, you could do alignments, and other complicated stuff. Yeah.
That's sick. In your lab or in research, specifically with microbiomes, can you do like simulations? Again, like what I'm envisioning is like an ecosystem, and like in that ecosystem you have like, okay, there's like some oxygen level, some temperature level, pressures. We have this amount of bacteria in this closed system, but it's on the computer. And then can you have that like be propagated throughout time? What if I were to like feed, put in another bacteria into this microbiome? Is that a thing in research?
I think that's like a newer development, like for computational, like microbiome science. But like in the lab, people have been starting to do that too.
I see.
Like they kind of figure out, okay, this is what the microbiome composition looks in this person. We're going to recreate it in the lab and then like grow it over time and see who overtakes the other one and see how the bacteria interact with one another. So,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. This is like a newer concept. It's a more modern concept versus like traditional like sampling every week when the patient comes in or something.
Yeah. Well, that's new too.
Oh,
Like, so like, yeah, when you think about microbiome science, all of it's relatively new. It's only been like a couple of decades.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So everything is pretty new and shiny, and so we're just trying to figure it out. So yeah, you'll have like people that are purely computational, and they'll do all of the computation work, but then you'll have the people that are like actually in the lab working with the bacteria, sometimes working with animals, to try to figure out what is the microbiome doing, how is it contributing, how are the bacteria interacting with one another.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And with the microbiome concept being new, we're not necessarily talking about like research in women's microbiome. We're talking about just like
Just in
generically.
general.
Okay, gotcha.
In general. So a lot is like more established in the gut microbiome, but even then we still don't know. Like people are like, okay, can I take this probiotic and will I feel better? And it's really hard to say like one probiotic for one person may work, but it might not work for another person. And it could be due to their microbiome. It could be due to like how the probiotic adheres to their intestinal tract or etc. So we're still like it's still a very new space and a lot of people want more answers, but it's kind of more gray right now because there's still a lot to uncover and we don't know what the downstream effects are too. Like if you give somebody like a probiotic and you say you'll be fine with this, like are there any side effects? Does it impact the rest of your microbiome in a bad way? We don't know.
Interesting. And then it's also interesting about like we don't know if it'll be bad because if you don't even look for it, or if like I feel like if that person does get worse but they don't report it or anything, or like to go in and give you their sample or anything like that, then you also don't know. So that's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, that's interesting. You primarily focus on women's health. Do you have like a strong ratio of like women to men in your field and or in your lab?
Yeah, so specifically in like our field of like obstetrics and gynecology, more recently has been very like women heavy. But in general, when you think of like biological sciences, for a while it was more like men scientists. I think over the past like 5 years or so, we've actually seen in the PhD cohorts that we're seeing about equal level. But whether or not, so this is what they call like the leaky pipeline, is that will the women stay after they get their PhD and stay in academia, move up the ranks and get into those higher positions, or will they not? So that's like been something that people are still pushing for because when you start to look at like the higher academic structure, you may not see as many women there.
Gotcha. But I think it's, regardless, I think it's still cool to see an increase in women in STEM. And I think it's so important to have representation in just like the science community. I guess in every community, representation should be there, you know? So I think that's really cool. In your current lab, is it like mostly women then? Or
Yeah, in our lab, it's about 90% women. We do have one staff scientist who is male.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. But when we've had some others, we've had like grad students and undergrads come into our lab. But it's not like we don't turn anybody away. It's just, I think there's like an inherent interest. Like being a woman, you're interested in women's health.
Yep.
And so we tend to get more people and students that want to come into our lab because they're like, this is really cool research. And I like identify with what you're kind of looking at.
Yeah.
So,
Something you mentioned earlier was how right now you're working towards eventually getting your own lab. Do you have anything that you're specifically interested in researching? I guess, do you have that say if it, even if it's your lab, or is it like kind of dominated by what the school says?
it's a little bit of both. It's not really what the school says. Like they do have some say. It's more like the overall field, like where are the dollars coming from
Makes sense.
too,
Yeah.
that sometimes sways people in certain direction. I want to stay in like the same space that like my boss is working in, but I do have to differentiate myself from her eventually. And we're going through those discussions like right now, like what can I take and what will my lab look like? And I'm really interested in like discovering like these new bacteria and also focusing on kind of these benign gynecologic conditions like endometriosis and also like pain and pelvic pain in general. those are things that I'm interested in moving towards.
When I was graduating, there's kind of like two paths that a lot of, I guess engineers don't, but maybe like doctorate engineers do. Like the path between academia and industry. Is that a concept in your field, or is it all academia? And if not, like what would even be industry?
What does that look like? Yeah. So like back in the day when people thought about scientists, they thought about people with their own labs working.
White coats and like
Yeah, yeah.
the microscope thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, but actually, like a lot of people that get their PhDs, only a percentage of those end up being able to be successful in getting like a faculty position. So the rest of the PhDs have are going to go out for these other careers. A lot of folks go into industry like right off of after getting your PhD. Some people do a postdoc and then go into industry. Some other people go into government, like working at the NIH. Other people may be like medical writers or do more science policy type of work. So you could do a lot of things with a PhD. It just depends like what you're kind of interested in, and also considering like what is your overall dream salary,
Yeah.
I guess too. But yeah, so I've kind of gone the traditional track, and I've currently in my postdoc, and I want to stay in academia.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
With that, can you kind of like explain or walk us through your kind of like salary progression as a microbiologist?
Yeah. So from undergrad, if you go into grad school, like you're gonna get like a research position, or you'll get like a teaching assistant while you're getting your PhD. And so typically at that time, you're making, I think right now it's like 30,000. It might have raised a little bit, but then once you get your PhD, depending on which route you go, so like people in industry might off the bat make like 120,000 or 90,000. Where if you go to my as a postdoc, it was recently like raised by NIH, but your starting salary will be like 54,000,
Okay,
and then
nice.
it'll progress each year. Currently, I'm in the 68,000, and that's because I have like a particular grant that was able to help me raise that up. But hopefully, like the next phase, the next jump is to being a faculty. And so that can range depending on what institution you're at. So if you're like at a medical institution, if you're at a, what they call Research One institution, so most of your load is doing research and not teaching as much, you might have a higher salary. And so that can range anywhere from like a starting salary of maybe 70,000, but then it could go anywhere from to 120 or 150 long, like once you're like full professor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And with that, do you have any like advice for any people, anybody who is inspiring to become a microbiologist? Do you have any words of advice or ideas or feedback?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's always great to like follow your passions, and especially in science, like it takes a lot of persistence and kind of resilience, because like your experiments are gonna fail, your grants are not gonna get funded, and so you kind of have to like pick an area of research that you find interesting, so that every day you wake up and you're like, I want to come in the lab and figure out this problem, to not be like dissuaded, because some days it can get like really stressful and really tough. So you kind of look more for like whatever your passion project is. But yeah, I've had like a bunch of great mentors also along my journey, and I think that's been really important, having like that support network, and also like the mentors telling me, you know, I applied for this grant and it didn't get funded, and I think it's because of this reason, so when you apply you should do this other thing. I think that's been really helpful for me. And so that's kind of why I've also done a lot of mentoring during my postdoc for like our undergraduate students that are interested in getting into grad school. Yeah.
That's so cool. And last question for you is if is there anything that you can let the audience know if there's any way that they can support you? Like, how can they support the science community?
Yeah, I think now maybe more than ever to just like support in overall like reading about scientific research, supporting your scientific community in especially like local communities. If you have the funds, donate to like foundations that fund research. If you're like specifically focused on like one particular problem, you're like, I've had a parent pass away from like this condition, and then you want to donate money to that. A lot of our money currently comes from foundations, and it's from people that have been impacted by like cancer. And then also just, I think, to just read more about science and kind of give that like to be skeptical, but also to know that there's like kind of gray areas in science as well. I think a lot of people, when they think about science, they're like, oh, the doctor told me this thing. So it's like black and white, but it's not. There's like always going to be nuance to it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, Dr. Jimenez, thank you so much for joining us today on today's episode.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.